welcome to part 2 with Vic Wayne. He is the awesome guy from Star Collector, and we are totally enjoying him, and I think we're going to keep him.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll have like part 3, part 4, maybe every week. I don't know. He is so charming.
Totally.
You're just fulfilling your CanCon necessities by just having who's a Canadian we can get on to satisfy that. Let's get Vic again.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't say anything about having a different Canadian, so we'll just have the same one.
Yeah. And now that I renounced my US citizenship, I'm all Canadian, so it's kind of like double the pleasure, double the fun.
Right.
I would like to really use this as a good stalker to stalk my favorite 90s bands.
Okay.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah. There were some good ones. I mean, you mentioned Treble Charger. Did you know the band?
I love them.
Did you know the band Zucker Baby?
Great name.
So yeah, they were around,
I like the name.
Yeah, they're from Calgary, and they were around the exact same time, and they made 2 really, really good albums. Same vein. In fact, they played with Treble Charger. Probably the only time I actually saw them.
Yeah, my favorite Canadian musician would probably either be Tom Hooper or Matt Good.
Oh, Tom Hooper, huh? Not Kevin Kane. Okay.
I really like Tom Hooper from Great.
So now I get to talk a little music here, because Kevin, the other main guy in Grapes of Wrath, co-produced 2 of our albums.
Really? See, I need to do my research better.
I wrote a song with him on our 3rd album. He played one of the solos on our song Funeral Party on this album. So
wow.
Tom seems like a really nice guy, but I know Chris a little bit, or I did know him when he lived here. And he's a super nice guy, but Kevin's the one that I know really really well. Tom, for whatever reason, I just never really had a chance to meet him, and so but yeah,
you give my dog news.
So
Cooper came over to say hi.
Hey,
there he is.
Nice to see you. I can just see this nose kind of popping.
Come on, Cooper. Come on, Cooper. This is Dale Cooper right here. Come on up.
Oh.
Come on, Dale Cooper. Come on up. Come on. Yeah. That's Dale Cooper.
So you're not totally alone in the mansion.
No, I'm going to mute me real quick and shove him in the yard so he doesn't bark.
Okay.
Meanwhile,
we'll talk amongst ourselves.
While I've got you, Vic, I don't think we ever established what was the name of your band that you had in Edmonton.
Well, I had a couple actually. So my first band was generically called the Mods.
Oh, you did tell me that before. That's still a great name. And you were a mod band, obviously. So yes.
Well, we were definitely a mod band. Like in every way. Like if you saw it from a slight distance, you would have thought we were the Jam. We were a 3-piece. We dressed like the Jam. Our music was similar to that. We covered a bunch of their stuff. That was kind of our template.
Did you have a scooter?
No, it's the only thing I did. And I had the parka and all the other stuff, but not the scooter.
Okay.
And then when that band split up, my brother was also in the band. So remember, I was the drummer. My brother was the bass player, and we both sang as well. And then the 2 of us joined up with this guy that was in that rockabilly band I mentioned earlier. His name was Drew, and they were called the Dragnets, and they were a really good 3-piece rockabilly band. And so they split up around the same time that the Mods split up, and he and the 2 of us formed kind of a, at the time it was a little more progressive. It was kind of more of that Simple Minds, U2, Echo and the Bunnymen kind of vibe. And that band was called Truth, and we did an album with them. And then I moved to Vancouver and got into a band for a little while, but I was still the drummer, and that band really soured me on the position of being a drummer, because I was writing a lot and I was still singing. But it just didn't work out. So when that band split up, I decided I just got to form my own band. I got all these songs, and maybe I'm fooling myself that I can be a singer, but whatever the case is, I'm going to give it a go. So I was in Vancouver at that time, and this is actually a great story, because Mike and Gidget, so I'll tell you too. So Steve is my longtime guitar player, my longtime companion. We've played together for decades, and he's like my other brother. And it was so funny how I met him. So I was in Vancouver, and I was working at a White Spot restaurant on Granville Street.
I love that White Spot.
Yeah, they have good burgers. And I was just waiting tables, and I was starting to formulate this idea that I was going to try and form my own band. And I knew a drummer that I'd grown up with who was currently finishing a degree in music in Montreal. And I sent him a letter and said, hey man, do you want to come out and be my drummer? I'm actually not going to be a drummer anymore. I'm going to be up front. I sent him a letter, because this is how long ago this was.
Yeah.
And amazingly, he said, yeah, I'll come out there and be your drummer. So I like,
Wow.
okay, great. So I got a good drummer now, and I'm working at the White Spot, and I'm in my section, and I'm walking by this table, and I hear the phrase rehearsal space. So I'm thinking, okay, they're either musicians. There's like 6 guys at a table. They're either musicians or actors, but there's not many
Right.
other options right here. So I just, being me, I just said, hey, you guys, are you guys musicians? And 2 of them piped up and said, yeah, I am. And the other guy said, yeah, I am. I said, well, what do you guys do? And one of them said, I play guitar. And the other one said, I play bass. And I said, ding, ding, ding. Here's my little light bulb goes off, right?
You're in the band.
He's like, oh, well, I'm a singer-songwriter and got a bunch of these songs, and I've got a drummer coming out from Montreal. Do you guys want to come and hear my stuff? And after one get together, we just joined up.
Wow.
So that was how I met Steve. And the bass player lasted about 6 months, maybe not even. But Steve and I carried on, and we had a band here in town that got pretty well known locally called State of Mind. And then we did an album with that band. And then that band morphed into another more kind of, I don't know, we used to describe ourselves as sort of like a Screaming Trees meets the Simple Minds kind of vibe. So it was kind of somewhere, it wasn't really quite grunge, but it also wasn't quite 80s. It had this weird kind of mixture. And that band was called Dear God, which, you know where that name came from, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that band did an album too, and toured and did some videos, and were on Much Music and the whole thing. So, that was kind of, that was a cool station. And at that point, that was kind of like where we thought the golden ring was going to be. And that band did a really good album I'm still extremely proud of. Quite different from the Star Collector stuff, but yeah, anyhow.
Did you sound at all like XTC?
No, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't.
You just like the name.
Yeah, I just love the name. In fact, that came up in a funny story. We were sitting around having a band meeting, and someone brought up the George Burns John Denver movie, and they said,
Right.
"Oh, isn't that called Dear God?" And I said, "No, that's called Oh God, but let's use the other one as our band name." And then of course I tied into the XTC song, and we all went, "Okay, deal." So that band did well, and then so Steve and I had been together for about 6 years with these 2 bands, and then it just finally, as bands do, one guy decides to leave, another guy is not working out. Suddenly it went from a 5-piece to a 2-piece in a matter of like a week. So I said to Steve, do you want to keep going, or do you want to take a little break? And he said, let me think about it for about a week. And we got back together, and he said, I think I'm going to take a little break. So I kind of was like, okay, well, now it's, and then there was one.
Wow.
So yeah, that was tough, because that band we would rehearse like 3 nights a week and gig all the time and tour all the time. And, it's like when you're at that age when you can do all that stuff before you have kids, and, like when you're going for it full on. And we toured with some cool bands. Like you might even remember the band Change of Heart, Gidget?
No.
Oh no, they were out of Toronto. They were a really cool band in the 90s. Anyhow, so, and we played with Our Lady Peace at a show one time. Wow. And so anyhow, so that was,
unless you had much music, you didn't get to see a lot of the Canadian content.
Well, that's right. That's right. And I mean,
they would send us stuff like chili wax, so they didn't have to share.
So we did a couple videos, and they did really well, and we're interviewed on Much Music and all that good stuff. And it really felt like we were just about there, and then the band died.
Oh man.
So that was tough. And then I kind of took like about a year and a half where I couldn't really write anything, because when you're a songwriter and you've got this access to all these other guys that immediately can make your music sound like a band, like you got a drummer that can play, and you got a bass player, you just bring a song in, and suddenly, poof, there it is. People are starting to work on arrangements, and when you don't have that, and you're used to having that for, whatever I had, 10 years maybe, it's hard to get motivated to do. And I'd written a lot of songs during that time and put a lot of energy in my life into it. And then suddenly it was like, okay, what now?
That's like losing a spouse or a girlfriend. Really. It's like,
it really is actually. It was tough. I mean, I've always been a pretty up kind of guy, like I'm a glass half full, extrovert and all that business, but there was a few tough days there, there's no question about it. So didn't really do much for about a year and a bit. And then out of the blue, the guitar player from my first band, The Mods, Dave, was living in Victoria, and he called me up and he said, you know, are you playing with anybody right now? Maybe you want to, I'm thinking of moving to Vancouver. Do you want to get together and write some songs? And he and I had written a lot together with my brother and all that in our first band. And we had a really good chemistry. And some of the stuff that you like right now, Mike, the Skyscraper and Turn You On and those kind of songs that are off our first album, those are stuff that I wrote with him and recorded with him and stuff. And so he came over and we wrote like probably 2 albums worth of stuff in a really short time. And then we went in and recorded it. And just when we got to like the last 2 songs, things kind of fell apart with him. But by then I'd had Ringo, our drummer, who was with us for 21 years after that. And this really well-known producer, Garth Richardson, he you know, had worked with like Catherine Wheel and the Chili Peppers and Rage Against the Machine and Alice Cooper. And I mean, you name it. He's like, you know, really well-known music producer. His father was Jack Richardson that did Love It to Death with Alice Cooper and Guess Who albums and stuff. Like,
I didn't know that was who he was related to.
Yeah, that was his dad. So just by a weird set of circumstances, Garth was in the recording studio while we were recording. Our engineer became friends with him is how it happened. And our engineer had always been a big supporter of us. And he brought Garth in and he said, oh, there's this band I just want you to hear. So we're in there recording and Garth's like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool stuff. But I really love that Vox amp that they're using there. So being kind of cocky at this time, Dave and I went off to dinner. And at dinner, we're like, why don't we see if we can get him to mix our album? And it's like, so we went back and we said to Chris, the engineer, see if Garth wants to mix our album. He seemed to like the music. And Chris, I remember this as clear as day. And this is like 25 years ago, maybe 23 years ago, whatever. Chris just started laughing. And he's like, that guy makes like $5,000 a song.
Oh, wow.
Why is he going to mix your 12 songs? Like, you know, and I said, well, if you really like that amp, maybe he'll do it for the amp. Here I am offering Dave's amp. So that wasn't even mine.
Oh my God, don't touch it.
Easier that way.
Yeah. And it was a vintage. It was like an early 70s. It was a good amp, but I mean, hell, if the guy's going to mix my album for a piece of equipment. So Chris laughed again. And I said, just go tell him. I always refer to this as our Gallagher moments where we were just kind of like, just cocky enough to think this might, you know, might work out. And what's the harm in trying?
Right.
And so Chris goes and tells him, and he comes back to me and he goes, I can't believe this, but he said he'll listen to all the songs. And if he likes them enough, he'll do it for the amp.
Wow.
That is awesome.
And he liked the songs enough and he mixed the album for us. So, and then he even helped us get into a really great studio situation for our second album.
Nice.
And
you didn't have to go back to the white spot to find other musicians.
No, I didn't have to do that either. So at the end of that album, so this is what happened. So Dave and I kind of fell out again. Not so much as friends, but certainly as musicians. And
you gave away his amp.
Yeah, I know. I hope you're not going to watch this because he'll ask me for money. So you think I'm kidding. So here I am. I've got a drummer, great guy, Ringo. I got the stuff recorded and I've got a really well-known producer behind me. I can't just and I really like that album. I couldn't just let it not get released.
Yeah.
And just by as fate would have it, Steve had moved away for a year after the band broke up and he had just moved back. And he came into the studio and heard just before Dave and I stopped doing stuff, he came in and listened once or twice. And he said to me after, he's like, wow, I really like this stuff you're doing. So when Dave kind of, fell out, then Steve fell in. And
nice.
that was 1997.
Nice.
Wow.
I keep going back to
later.
Wow. I keep going back to the drummer named Ringo, because if you have a guy named Ringo in your band, he's not going to be the bass player or the guitarist. No way. He's not going to be a keyboard player.
That's true. It's like if you name your kid Jeeves, you know what you're setting him up for in life, right? Sorry, I think I stole that from Seinfeld or something, but it's true.
Just ask him, yeah.
Yeah. No, his name was actually Rene, but we just started calling him Ringo right from day one, and everyone calls him Ringo in the music scene.
It's so funny that you say that Jeeves thing, because I play this game with a butler who looks just like Mike.
That's right. Except not quite as handsome, but close.
He's bald. He's a bald Mike. It's called
Okay.
Oh,
Homescapes.
Bald Mike.
He's me in the future, bald Mike in the future.
And
DJ
he's a
Bald
butler.
Mike. And he's a
Bald Mike.
butler.
And he's
Of
a
course.
butler.
He did
His
it. He
name's not
obviously
Jeeves.
he did it. Yeah,
That's
he's
funny.
guilty by association.
So,
But every time I
so-
play it, I say, "Hi, Mike Jeeves."
Hey, Mike Jeeves. Hello, Jeeves.
Hello.
So then Stephen Ringo and I kind of kept the band going for, right up until this last, I think, 21 years Ringo was with us. And then he had a kid really late in life. And as you had mentioned earlier, Gidget, like the price of living here is stupid.
Yeah.
So he and his wife and their little one decided they were going to move back over to Alberta where it was cheaper and he had some family and stuff. And, it's like, what can you do? Like, nicest guy in the world. Was absolute hoot on the road, had us in stitches all the time, did a great Sean Connery, perverted Sean Connery impression.
Oh, I can imagine.
But Sean Connery is a pervert.
Well, I don't know if he is or not, but Ringo sure made him one.
Yeah.
And just, salt of the earth, best guy. And, but that's
you can
life,
still
right?
work with him. I mean, in this day and age, everybody's learning how to not leave the house.
Well, you're right. We could have, but this happened. So this was about 3 years ago. And so there was another band in town that did it was very much in the similar kind of vibe, maybe a little more 60s, sort of than what we did, but certainly we could play gigs with them. And we did for many years. They were called the Orchid Highway, and all really good players, good writers, and their drummer. So they broke up. I don't know, I guess it's about 7 years ago now, but their drummer Adrian, we'd always been a fan, and he used to come to our shows. We go to their shows and gig and tour together and stuff. So when Ringo said, I gotta go, we thought, well, who's the very first person we'd think of? And both Steve and I were like, yeah, Adrian. And at the time we had our bass player then with us as well, Shane. So the three of us went, yeah, Adrian, he's the guy. And Adrian said, great, love to. I still have the text where I was like, do you want to come and maybe do some shows with us? And it was, fuck yeah. All it said, big capital
Emphatic.
letters with a lot of exclamation points. Fuck yeah. I can call it up.
And Adrian's another great name for a drummer.
It is. And he's a great drummer. And he's also a really good sound engineer.
Oh, good.
So that
multitasking.
Oh man, that ended up being a saving grace because we had done the drum tracks for Game Day, the new album, in the big studio, where you go in and you pay the bigger money and the whole thing, but you want the drums to sound, big. One thing you don't scrimp on is the drum sound.
Yeah.
But then COVID hit, and we were still able to do it all because Adrian could just do it out of his house. We could go in and overdub and sing and play bass and or whatever in his house. So we actually worked on the album that way. And then my brother replaced Shane during the recording, but my brother lives in Portland. So this goes to your point, Gidget, that you can still send files around. You don't all have to be in the same place. But it was so great to have my brother back again because, brothers, grown up, in music our whole lives. And he had his own musical life in Portland and in LA before that. And I had mine in Vancouver, and every once in a while we'd need a bass player or something, and he would come and do it.
And I love Portland. You got to use that as an excuse to go to Portland more.
And we do, yeah. So
we have a lot of great bands in Portland that are with Woody.
Mike Collins comes to mind first and foremost. Yes. Rachel Taylor Brown's another one.
Yeah, I've heard you play her. She's good.
Yeah, I went to Portland to a really great bar to see Throwback Suburbia back in the 90s. No, the 2000s, back when Woody first started. And I went to that big bookstore.
Powell's.
Right.
And I went and got a voodoo donut. So your brother's living in a great place.
He is. He definitely is.
I know where the good donuts are and everybody. Voodoo's overrated now, but back then.
Donut tours with Gidget.
Right. They have a Voodoo Donuts at Universal Studios in LA now. So that's where I had my Voodoo Donut 2 years ago.
I had the voodoo one shaped like a voodoo, like the little dude.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was so sickly sweet. Oh my God. I'm like a normal donut person. So, we said how much we like Mexican food. Vic, what do you eat?
Well, I do love Mexican food, and but I also love Indian food and I love Thai food. I'd say those are probably my three top choices. I mean, I like a lot of stuff. I was a vegetarian for a really long time.
Mhm.
And when you're vegetarian, you tend to be able to eat without sacrificing much when you eat those kind of really
Right.
foods that are rich in curries or in spices or whatever.
Yeah.
And Mexican can also easily be vegetarian too.
Right.
Oh my God, there's a place here, Chando's Tacos, and they have a whole vegetarian menu too. Spinach and cheese taco. Oh, that's better than some of their meat tacos.
Yeah, I do a spinach and potato taco all the time. I do eat a lot of vegetarian food. I'm not a vegetarian.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
don't
either
eat-
anymore, but I was for a long time, and now
My
I'm back.
very,
eating
I was a
chicken and
vegetarian all through college.
bacon.
You know, and now I live in Indiana, and they stare at you really weird if you don't eat
Yeah,
meat.
there's certain parts of the world. I know it's like Alberta, the province that I was from before. I mean, they're like the beef capital of Canada. Like,
Yeah.
you're not. If you were a vegetarian there, you're gonna have trouble finding a restaurant that's. I mean, I don't want to sell them too short, but yeah, in general. But Vancouver, again, back to that multicultural thing.
Mhm.
Like you can get great vegetarian food at just about every restaurant you go to. So.
Yeah.
So,
And
but yeah, so
and
then
my
Adam.
being
Oh,
English
sorry, go ahead.
keeps me from having to be a full vegetarian because I wouldn't be able to have bangers.
Right. Well, and that was what sucked me back in was bacon.
Bacon. Now, see, I don't eat bacon because I don't eat pork, but I will have pork if it's in my banger. But we can't get. We have to. The meat is very weird when you're getting it from England because of mad cow.
Yeah.
You can get proper bangers in Vancouver, but you can't get proper bangers in the States.
Right.
Mm.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
See?
But I don't eat pork, so bacon isn't going to happen.
Yeah. I don't know why that was just my gateway drug back to the eating meat again.
It's not really a meat. It's just a flavoring. It's a chewy flavoring.
It's too chewy for me. My gateway back into the meat was a hamburger bar in San Francisco called Hot and Hunky.
What part of town was that, out of curiosity?
Burgers and male strippers. Come on in, folks.
It was a drag queen bar next door called the Mint.
There you go. Okay, there you go.
They always made me vegetarian burgers. It would be a cheeseburger, but with no meat. It would be everything: the mayo, the lettuce, the tomato, the cheese, all the stuff, just no meat. And when we went to Slater's, I got a vegetarian burger, but I added bacon just because I wanted to freak everybody out.
Well, okay. Nice. So to this day, I still don't eat beef. Weird thing. I eat bacon, I eat chicken, I eat turkey. I've even had lamb a couple times, but for whatever reason, I haven't gone back to beef. So I still order veggie burgers wherever, White Spot, anywhere these places, but I put bacon on them.
That's funny.
And it's always the same question. So I'll have the bacon cheeseburger, but with a veggie patty, please. And it's
I do
every
eat
single
beef,
time.
not at Mexican restaurants though.
But you want the bacon every time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Personal preference.
Yes,
I do eat beef and I eat chicken, but I don't eat lamb. I don't eat pork. I don't eat veal.
I don't feel great about it. I mean, because it was like a lot of years that we didn't eat it, but now I've just, I've slipped so far back that there's, it's like
being English and seeing that big lamb roast with the mint and smelling it and knowing that it's going to taste good if I just would give in, but I'm not giving in.
Good for you.
I feel like I've given in enough.
Fight the power.
I'm just going to say, I'm going to say one thing that's going to ruin the whole conversation. I'm going to Texas next week. That kills it all because I totally do. Barbecue, Tex-Mex, Tex-Mex.
I hate you.
That's
You're fired.
I would too.
That's okay. So then back to the music thing. So then Adam kind of took over, and we started having Adam play the bass from Portland. And he and I would go back and forth on the bass stuff, and it got him to do some singing. And so that's the way bands they change. Not everybody can be U2 and have the same four guys for 43 years.
I'm glad they're not U2 because they're not one of my favorite bands.
No, I know. I mean, these days U2 is not vogue with most people anyway. But my point is more just about how long they've
longevity.
Guys, like
there aren't a lot of bands, and the bands that do have the longevity are missing key people.
Right. Like, is there any other band that's had the same four guys for 40 years other than U2?
REM did it until Bill Berry dropped out, and then they just kind of didn't really.
That was 18 years.
I can't think of anybody.
Rush, maybe Rush.
Aren't they dead?
Okay, yeah, the one guy died, but until then, you're right. They were.
But there was only 3 of them, so I mean.
Yeah, better odds.
Yeah,
that's true.
I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, no, I know it's a tough one.
Scratching
Green
at it.
Day. Green Day's been about 25 years.
Yeah.
That's a band I didn't think would make it out of the 90s, and I'm glad they did. I didn't think Green Day or Weezer would make it out of the 90s. So glad they did.
And Weezer's pretty much kept everybody except for the guy that left early on, haven't they?
I don't know. I actually don't listen to a lot of Weezer for whatever reason. I know.
Okay, what about
But I don't.
There's got to be somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of us will come up with it. But
No,
for now,
somebody has got to be still together.
Oh, I know. Bob Dylan. He is still together with himself.
That's up for debate.
Well played.
Maybe I'm not.
I'm not a Bob Dylan fan. I'm always like quick to make sure that people know that my son's name is Dylan from the poet Dylan Thomas.
Well, that was where Bob Dylan's name came from. So, it's all derivative from Dylan Thomas.
Well, Dylan was supposed to be Walter because I wanted a Jack and Walter. My mom said, you don't do that to children.
You almost did, though.
I'm still trying to think of a band that's been together for, that long, and I don't know anybody.
Right.
Who's been together. Echo and the Bunnymen. No, I think they've switched members too.
Their drummer died in '89.
Yeah.
This player was back and then left again. So no, I mean, yeah, I know it's hard.
Things change.
But
Dramarama only has lost 2 members. The 3 of them are still in there.
Yeah, but that's.
Yeah, they're not like famous. They're cult famous.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody.
I mean, the Stones is still 60% too, but even then,
the Stones might not even really be alive. We don't know.
We don't know.
It is hard to tell. Did you see that really funny meme of Keith Richards with a really little baby, and it's
the little Willie Nelson?
No, he's like down here, like googie with little girl, and it says Keith Richards with Betty White as a kid.
Oh, I saw it with Willie Nelson and he had little braids.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
Foo Fighters have been together since the 90s.
Foo Fighters. Same lineup?
All 4 of them are the same, aren't
not
they?
all the same guys. No, they're they had the 2 guys from Sunny Day Real Estate, and the drummer couldn't.
Oh, that's right.
Make it work with Dave Grohl, so he left, and then they had some different guitar players. No.
It's got to be hard to be. It's got to be hard to be a drummer for Dave Grohl, who was a drummer. It's got to be hard to be in that position, like be a drummer for Phil Collins. Just somebody that knows drums.
Well, so you know what? That's okay. So now we're bringing it back to Little Star Collector stuff. I'm a drummer. Remember I mentioned that to you. I was a drummer, right? So I've always been, I'm sure, much harder on the drummers than the other guys in the band because I understand drums. Like I've never been a bass player. I can't play bass to save my life. I can still know what I like to hear and what I don't, but I can't technically discuss bass the way that another bass player could. But with my drummers, I can. And I'm sure there's been times when, different guys have just like pulled their frickin' hair out because, I'm talking about something that I want to hear. And however, that being said, Ringo was with us for 21 years. So maybe he's just like, way too good a guy. But yes,
say
your point
drummers.
is well taken. If you got a guy who's leading the band that used to do something, I'm sure it's hard. But Taylor Hawkins is an incredibly good drummer. Amazing.
There's a thing about drummers live, and when drummers sing and become their singers, that I've noticed they put on more of a concert because they're used to being behind, and when they come up front, they know they have kind of like a back and a front. They're able to look at it in all directions of the stage. So they put on a better show. Everybody I've seen who's been a drummer and is now a singer, I have had a better time at their concerts.
Interesting.
We'll put that theory to test one day when you come see us.
When I see
you'll be like, that theory was wrong. Star Collector sucks.
Phil Collins was amazing live. Amazing live. Not that I like his music because I really can't stand Phil Collins, but live. Gautier played the drums, sang. His music, nothing sounds like that someone that I used to know sung. And he was one of the most talented musicians I've ever seen in my entire life. And he didn't play anything but drums.
Bruno Mars is another guy that like.
He's a drummer. Wow.
A hell of a performer. Yeah. So
I just think that you're able to get a viewpoint of how a band should work from both angles, front and back.
Yeah,
that's very interesting theory. I never thought of it that way, but maybe there is something to that.
There's something to be said about bands that have to play their pay their dues and get live and show people what a live band is supposed to be like. And I think now with COVID, all these people who aren't playing right now, who are just doing this, the people that are still doing the Zooms and doing like recorded live shows are the ones who are still going to be able to play when this is over. There's young people coming up. I don't think will have an idea. They've missed out on a whole generation that we had.
Yeah, that could very
of
well
live
be.
and paying your dues.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
Could very well be. Yep.
You know, I mean, I'm not ready for concerts yet. And a certain musician that people like, who I can't stand, said that he won't play for if they make it that you have to show a Vax card. I don't care. I'm not going to show a Vax card to see a band anyway, because I don't think we're ready for that. And I think that if you're going to go to a show and you're going to be stupid enough to take off your mask at a show, you're stupid enough to catch something, because it doesn't matter. I really think that we should learn an example of how to enjoy music without big arenas. I think we need to be a little bit more intimate with our music again.
Yeah.
And I think the old days need to come back. And that's why we did the living room sessions at Woody Radio and did all those live shows. Why Dolph does all those shows every other week is because there is a part where somebody sees a band and they go, oh my God, I feel that. But when you're in a big, stadium and you're seeing a bunch of really super old guys who want $300 from you just to see them from the back of the room, it's not the same.
You're not
and
seeing
I think
them.
that we need to look at that in a different view now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of like immediately when you said that, I was like, okay, so I remember about 10 years ago, the Stones came here, and that was exactly what it was. Way too many people. You're far back, and to be honest, the Stones aren't much live. I mean, he's still a hell of a performer for a guy who's like 75, but musically they sound like shit. And the whole experience is different. But then I saw Squeeze at this 1,500 seater in Vancouver, the Commodore Ballroom, about 3 or 4 years ago, before COVID, just a little while before COVID, and it was incredible. I mean, transcendent kind of experience. I mean, I'm a huge Squeeze fan, but I like a lot of Stones too. And maybe if I'd seen the Stones in a different way,
I've seen the Stones 3 times and I wasn't impressed any of them.
Yeah, I like
every time I felt like they just were there for the money.
Yeah, I mean,
and I felt the same way about Aerosmith, and at least the Who admitted that that's what they were there for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at that time in 1984 or 5, when I saw them, it was $125 a ticket.
That's big money for 84. Wow.
Oakland Coliseum.
Yeah.
Oh, was that Day on the Green?
No, actually, it was at the big Coliseum. It was they played with, I don't remember who they played with, somebody unimportant. But I had seen the Who with the Clash before that in 83.
Oh, I know when you saw them.
And
you saw
I
them
left.
on their farewell tour. Yeah.
Yeah, and I left during the Who because I was bored.
Wow.
As much as I love the Who, I was bored because these are a bunch of old men who didn't give a shit that we were there.
That era wasn't good for the Who. I'm a big Who fan, but the last album that they did, It's Hard, that wasn't a good album. That wasn't a good era for them.
No,
that was their farewell tour, I think.
Yeah.
I know.
And
I was trying to pick through that album.
Fan.
I was trying to pick through that album the other day to try to find even like a few tracks that I wanted to have on my, in my library. And I was like, I don't know. Okay, Eminence Front's good, and
I'm over it. I think I'm getting too old to care.
But like, I agree with you. Like, it was a really tough. At the time, I liked it more than I did in retrospect. But even then, I was kind of lukewarm to it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, but their catalog speaks for itself before that. So
I love their catalog. By the way, I think it's time for something special because we're starting to wind down here. But I think Vic needs a fortune.
He does need a fortune.
Can you see these?
Is this the Mike's fortune cookie moment?
Yes, Mike's fortune cookie moment.
Okay, I'll take that one.
Okay, good. Because we have a few, but I think that's the one that screams Vic.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open it up here, right on camera.
So this is my fortune.
This is your fortune.
Okay.
It could be
Gidget has to add to it.
Yes. This is a group thing. Gidget and I have a way of reading these. So it could be Gidget's and my fortune too, if we like it, but it's definitely yours, Vic. Okay.
Ooh, yuck. I hate the way those things taste.
Uh-oh. What does it mean if there's only half a fortune?
Oh,
wait a minute. You know what?
You really have some shitty luck, dude.
Wow.
I know. No,
Time
actually,
to go back to the white spot and get some luck
that's not
going.
my parking karma there.
No, there's enough to work with, though.
Okay.
Today will begin your year of prosperity.
In bed.
Oh. In bed?
Oh,
that's
and
good
there's
too.
the rest of the fortune. It was in my mouth.
Okay, so today will begin your year of prosperity.
Yeah, just go with that. That's good. That's a
damn,
good one.
I
In
like
bed.
that one.
In bed.
In bed, in Mike's mouth.
Oh, I see. That's how he reads the fortune, and you have to finish the sentence. Okay, that's
Yes.
I always add in bed to the all of
Every
it.
time.
Yeah, you can't really lose with that, can you?
It's
No.
enhanced every single fortune. It's never gone wrong.
So here's
well, I guess. I mean, what if
here's
what
my
if
last
the thing said, you know, you are unfortunate.
in bed.
There's more of the fortune. God.
In Mike's mouth.
This won't be your year.
I totally
In
botched
bed.
that one.
So
This
Vic,
was our very first.
here's the Gidget part.
Yeah.
Go on, Mike.
I would say this was our very first fortune accident on the job. We have to reset the counter now.
Start it over.
Yep. 0
It
days
has
without a
been 0
fortune.
days since Mike ate the fortune of one of our guests
Yes.
in bed.
In bed. In Mike's mouth.
So now that you think that we're
Oh,
totally
no.
fucking nuts, and I have a potty mouth,
I've been in the music world a long time. Potty mouth is par for the course.
so Vic, the
Yes.
things that we need to know as female listeners, are you
In
single?
bed.
In bed.
I am not. I'm not.
Okay.
I got kids and the whole thing, man. In fact, my older,
cool.
we were talking about names. You were talking about, like a little bit earlier. So you can tell where my musical upbringing comes from. My older son's name is Julian.
So's
Wow.
mine.
Seriously?
Seriously. My son's name is Julian.
That's right.
You kid.
We call
Wow.
him Jack. His name is
Okay.
Julian. Julian
We-
Jack.
That's amazing. We call mine Julian.
Well, he doesn't want us to. I call him Jack because he was supposed to be Jack.
Oh, okay.
I wanted Jack and Walter.
Right.
And he popped out looking like Jack Lemmon. So, but then again, all babies look like either Jack Lemmon or Walter Matthau. So,
Yes, that is true.
I always thought that all babies look like either Winston Churchill or Trini Lopez. I was a Trini Lopez baby myself.
I don't know what I look like. I was adopted.
Oh,
They don't
You were
have
still a
pictures of
baby,
me
though.
totally-
You were still
Yeah.
a baby.
I know. I probably look the same. So, and what sign are you, Vic?
do you want to guess?
I would think that you're probably like a Taurus. Or
I
some
think
kind of
you're really
spring
close.
kid.
You're really close.
Gemini.
Yeah, you knew that because you know when my birthday is.
Well, I sort of forgot that, but you kind of act like a Gemini.
I was thinking
Yeah.
end of
Outgoing.
May.
Yes, end of May.
I'm really good at that.
May, yeah, you are. May 25th is my birthday. And you know how, Mike, remember we talked about this because I share a birthday with Jodie Porter from Fountain
That's right.
Plain,
That's
Right.
right.
Paul Weller. from
That's
the
right.
Jam.
Oh, I love Paul Weller. He's one of my favorites.
The Jam. I mean, that's my
That's your
and,
jam.
who else? Dimitri Martin, the wonderful comedian.
Yes,
That's
I
right.
love him.
Mike Myers.
Dimitri
Comedian.
Martin played Rodney on something, I think, or he was going to.
He did play on. He was on. I love him. I saw him live one time and
Wow.
just guy's hilarious.
Now, do you guys want to go
Yeah.
to a part 3? Because we can go to a part 3. It's up to you guys.
I'm happy to do whatever you guys got time for.
I can do a little
got
more. I
time.
got to eat dinner because we were talking about food, but yeah, let's go to part 3.
Okay, I'm going to close you guys up and we'll do part 3.
Okay.
And then we'll get all personal. and
Okay.
naked. Okay.
Okay. I'll get ready for that while you're. Okay.
Okay.